Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is in regards to nutrition, and we're going to talk about spot reduction, which would be the belief that you can lose body fat in one specific spot of the body. So an example of this might be somebody dieting to specifically lose fat in their belly and their waist, or dieting to lose kind of their like saddlebags. So maybe you have some cellulite on the outside of your legs, and you want to diet, and the goal is you're hoping to lose fat in that specific location. So that is typically referred to as spot reduction. And I want to talk today about how that actually isn't possible and why it's not possible, and then how you can best go about trying to achieve it even though it isn't possible. So the reason why I think this is helpful is way too often people are promised these kind of things in infomercials and even from kind of like medical places that help with dieting. So there are clinics that will give you like HCG shots, tell you to eat 500 calories a day, and that you're going to lose all the fat in your belly. No. So you can't lose fat in only one specific spot of the body. So that does not work. So the reason why we accumulate fat, more so in one area of the body as opposed to another area, there is hormonal factors related to like how much estrogen you have versus how much testosterone. But in general, let's go with kind of like the most basic way of thinking of this. Like, why do we carry more fat in our belly and not have like really fatty like forearms and calves, but like have six-pack abs? So why is our fat mostly centered around the middle of our body? Whether that's your thighs or your belly, your low back, your butt. So any of the middle of the body locations. The most kind of biggest common reason that we would want to understand is that it's related to what body fat is. So body fat is stored energy. And where do we use most of our energy would be in kind of like our organs into the center of our body. So most of the things that we need to keep alive using calories is in the center of our body. So that's where our heart is, our liver, kidneys, all of our organs. So the things that use up a lot of calories are in the middle of our body. Now our brain uses a lot of calories, but our head isn't really a great place to store a bunch of fat. But in general, the reason why we store fat unevenly, like why it centers mostly to the center of our body, is because that's where our organs are, that's where we use the most. So it kind of makes sense that if you think of body fat as stored fuel, so kind of the gas tank of our body. So where would we need the gas the most is in the center. So if we stored all of our stored energy in our fingers and toes, our body would have to take it from there to the center of the body to use it. So it's not very efficient. So our body just kind of stores it right in the middle because that's where it would need it. So then why doesn't fat loss occur from the middle out? So why can't we lose all of our fat in our belly but still have fat on our calves and forearms and stuff? And again, that goes back to the reason of what body fat is. It's stored energy. So why would your body take away the stored energy, the energy that it thinks it might need for later? Why would it take it away from the location that it thinks it needs it the most? So it stored it in the center, so it makes sense that it won't want to get rid of it from the center first, right? So that's where it's helpful for us to understand kind of the general concept of what stored body fat is and why we store it the way we do, because now you can start to see why spot reduction isn't possible. So we would be going against kind of evolution in the sense of what our bodies have learned are best for them. So our body has learned that it's best to keep its extra energy towards the middle of the body because that's where it needs it the most. So therefore, when we're trying to take energy out, when we're trying to lose body fat, it makes sense that it would not want to get rid of it from the center of our body first. So body fat does happen evenly, so throughout the body, and that makes sense because our body kind of thinks what's the safest way for us to get rid of it is to get rid of it a little bit from the outside in. So since it stores more in the center, so if you start a diet, and let's say you have 4 inches of fat on your waist, but only a ½ inch of fat on your forearms, let's just say something like that, then it makes sense that as we lose fat, and we lose it relatively evenly, I'm going to lose, say, a half inch of fat. I'm going to lose a half inch off my waist, but I still have 3.5, which means I can't really see any of the detail of my waist yet, so it's hard for us to see that we've actually lost weight. Now, if we compare photos against each other, we can see that maybe we're narrower in the waist, but there's still not much detail because there's still 3.5 inches of fat covering all the detail. Whereas in your forearms, if there was only a half inch of fat to start with, all of a sudden your forearms are going to show muscular detail, maybe even some veins, now that there's like minimal fat over top of them. So that's why it appears sometimes that we lose fat from the outside in, is since we started from the outside having lower amounts of fat, we can see the muscles and structures underneath the fat faster because there's going to be less and less fat on those areas as we continue through our diet. So that's kind of how body fat is stored, and that makes sense why we can't spot reduce. So why we can't have six-pack abs but still have, fat thighs or fat arms or fat calves and stuff like that. So now, that is in regards to the concept of spot reduction. However, we can do what's called spot shaping. So when we exercise, the exercise effect that we have towards body fat is just burning calories. So hopefully we're taking in a little less calories in our food than what we're using. So therefore the body has to pick away at stored body fat to kind of make up that difference. So that's how we can kind of burn up stored body fat and get rid of it. Now, spot shaping, how can I make an effect if I really do want to make an effect in one area? How can I make the best effect is to address the musculature of that area. So if I'm doing, say, let's say you're doing a glute exercise and you want it to lose fat so that way you can have a better shaped glute. Well, the fat that is over top of your glute muscle is preventing you from being able to see your muscle. But do you even have glute muscle? So this is something that I think is interesting for people, is very often people believe themselves to look like kind of muscular, well-shaped supermodels underneath, but they just have this layer of fat over top of them. So they think as they lose the fat, all of a sudden they'll uncover all these beautifully shaped muscles. Nope. So those muscles have to be built. So you still need to train muscles if you want to have shape to them. Otherwise, you're just going to go from fat to skinny and frail. There's really no muscularly shaped athletic look in the middle if you haven't built and actually earned those muscles. So what we would want to do, is this happens all the time for females, is I'll give a male and female example so that way all the females don't get mad at me for singling you out. But very often a female will come in, not even just here, just a female will start to work out because maybe they have too much fat in their belly and too much fat in their thighs and their butt, and they want to have kind of that cute kind of booty pop over what they have now, which is probably a big mushy fat that they don't want. So often what will happen is they'll lose body fat more and more and more, but all of a sudden their glutes don't really get a better shape. So as they continue to lose weight, there really isn't that rounded booty underneath that they want. And the reason why is because they've never built the muscle for it. So they're dieting off all the fat that would be over top of their muscle, but they haven't done anything to actually build the muscle to those nice curves. So what you have to do is you have to combine the activities needed to burn up calories, but make those activities specific to what you want to show in terms of shape. So if I want my shape to be a nice rounded glute, then I have to do glute work as part of my ability of burning calories. So part of my goal of burning calories is being active. But if I'm being active in glute-focused ways, I'm going to lose the fat as it comes down. I can build up the muscle, and they can kind of meet in the middle. And that'll give you the nice shape. So that way you don't diet from all fat and no muscle. You can build up the muscle as you're losing the fat, and then that gives you the shape. So another example of this would be guys when they lose weight. Let's say that they're kind of have beer belly, they weren't very active, but they want to have kind of a big chest and big arms. So they'll think if they lose weight, all of a sudden they're going to have this, rippled chest like Fabio, if anybody actually knows who that is anymore. Or let's say The Rock, that's probably more common. So they want to have a nice muscular chest. But as they continue to diet down, they realize they're kind of like man boobs, are going to just a flat chest. So they don't have this muscle underneath that they thought they had. And the reason why is because they never did anything to build that muscle. So when we want to get lean, we have to realize if we are hoping to go from being overweight to an athletic, curvy body, those curves are not there. You have to earn those curves. You have to build those curves. And if you already have to be active to burn off the body fat, be active in the ways that build those curves. So that implies that it's better to spend your time and energy doing resistance training that'll build up the muscle rather than just doing cardio that just burns off the fat but doesn't do anything positive for muscle shape or muscle building. Okay? So this is kind of like going into, I know this is a nutrition podcast, but it's going to go into a little bit of training here because the two are connected. So very often when I have people come to the gym and I train clients and their main goal is fat loss, we actually don't even own a treadmill. So in my gym, we don't even have a treadmill. We have one elliptical that doesn't even work in terms of the electronics on it. People can just get on it to kind of warm up their knees if they want to. And we have a rower. So a Concept 2 like rower from Rogue. And that's it. That's our cardio inside. However, we have sleds they can push and pull. We have tires they can flip. We have sandbags they can carry. We have muscular-based cardiovascular activities, not just plain old cardio where you don't use your muscles, because it's not as effective. So, as a gym owner who wants to do right by his members, I don't want to present them with options that are bullshit. So where they're going to get onto a treadmill and think that that's going to get them the curvy, beautiful body. It will not. So I don't even want to own a treadmill, so that way they don't make that mistake. I don't want to send the wrong signal. Okay? So doing cardio only will lose body fat, sure, when combined with a good diet. But it's not going to allow you to show any muscles because you never built the damn muscles. So you're going to go from overweight down to a leaner version of what you already kind of look like. And what I mean by that, if you're shaped like a pear, you're going to go from a big pear to a small pear. If you're shaped like an apple, you're going to go from a big apple to a small apple. But you're still an apple, or you're still a pear. You never actually change your shape. How you can change your shape to get the features that you want. Maybe you want broader shoulders, maybe you want bigger arms as a guy, or a girl. That's fine if you want those things too. Like often girls sometimes talk about having like an hourglass shape, where they want to have like a thin, like a narrow waist, but they want to have some muscle and curves to their booty and thighs. You have to build that stuff. That stuff is not just under there. So whatever shape you are now, as you lose fat, you're going to stay that shape. So if you want to lose fat and change shape, you have to do resistance training. You have to actually train your muscles to build them and shape them the way you want. So, is spot reduction possible? Can I lose fat in just one spot of my body? No, it is not possible. But is spot shaping possible? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, 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 yes. So if I want my booty to look better, if I train my booty a lot while I lose body fat, my booty is going to look better. So I'm going to get better shape change to it. As I get leaner, I'm going to be able to see the curves of the muscles, and you're going to have that kind of nice roundedness. So you're going to have that shelf at the bottom, kind of the booty pop that separates from your hamstrings. So if you're a guy and you want to have a muscular chest rather than just a flat chest, or a chest that's kind of lower chest dominant and almost looks like kind of man boobs, if you want to improve that, you have to train your chest muscles. So as you get leaner and lose the body fat covering over those muscles, you have to build those muscles up so you can actually see them. So you have to do resistance training, which is spot shaping, if you want to change one area of your body. But you cannot do spot reduction, which is just lose the fat in that one area. Okay? So this is really important for us to put this together to recognize that just doing straight up cardio, it only factors into half of the equation. It only burns off body fat. It does not do anything for muscle tissue. So you have to recognize that and realize that is some cardio in your programming fine? Oh, absolutely, sure. But if your entire programming, your entire exercise is just cardio, that's your entire routine, you're wasting a lot of time that you could be using changing the shape of your body. And then when you lose all the body fat and you get down to realizing that you needed that shape change, shit, you just wasted all that time that you could have been doing it already. And now all of a sudden you'll have to pick up and do it when you could have already been doing it for months. So, the cool thing to remember, and we just did a podcast a day or two ago about this, is that you can use muscle damage. So the damage that you get from resistance training actually helps you burn more calories and helps you lose fat faster than cardio alone. So doing resistance training is actually going to help you lose fat even faster than just cardio. So, geez, oh whiz, you can tell that there's a lot of benefit here. So we want to do resistance training to build the shape that we want once our fat is off of us. And we want to do resistance training because it actually helps us lose the fat faster. So that's the idea. So, can we lose fat in one specific area of our body and not like anywhere else? No. So I can't just get six-pack abs and leave everything else the same level of fat. So I can do 1,000,000 crunches and it won't let me just lose my body fat over my abs. That doesn't work. So I actually, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've heard me tell my stories before. Like when I first ever started working out, it was on my 15th birthday. A friend of mine called me fat, and I realized he was right, and I didn't like that. So I didn't like being called something that could be true of me, but then also that I didn't like. So, that's not a good place to be. So I wanted to take charge of it. So I did 250 push-ups and 250 sit-ups every single night. And I did that for a whole year. I missed 10 days. Bleh, still bummed about that. But I thought doing push-ups would build my chest up, and I thought doing sit-ups would burn off the body fat over my belly. I have no clue why I thought the same activity, like doing muscular activity in my chest, would build muscle, and doing muscular activity in my abs would lose body fat. I was 15, I was an idiot. I've been an idiot for longer than that, but I was definitely an idiot at 15. So, I was just uneducated. I didn't know. So I thought the act of lifting myself in push-ups was going to make my muscle bigger. I didn't know you had to eat like protein to actually build the muscle. I thought just the physical activity itself made muscles bigger. And then I thought doing crunches, since I'm using that area of my body, it would make that area of my body leaner. And no, that's not true. So I did 355 days of 250 sit-ups a night and did not lose my belly fat. And that was very depressing because that's a very large investment. But it was a really good lesson learned for me. So that was a definitive lesson learned that spot reduction is not possible. And then as I went on to college and got my degrees and learned actually the science of all this stuff, now I understand why that didn't work. So I'm trying to pass it on to you guys so you don't waste a year of your life trying to do the same thing. So, can you change your shape? Yes. That's with resistance training. Can you lose fat in one spot of your body but not anywhere else? No. So we have to recognize that spot reduction is not possible, but spot shaping is. But spot shaping is only possible if you do resistance training, not just cardio alone. Okay? So recognize that those athletic curves that you might want are not underneath your fat, unless you've already earned them and worked for them. So use resistance training while you're doing fat loss. So that way you can build up those curves as you're losing the body fat. Work on both ends of the goal. Okay? So how are we going to put this all together? If your goal is to make a spot smaller than the rest of your body. So for example, I had a softball player. I've done this a couple of times with people, but this is one example. I had a girl who graduated from college. She had played softball in college, and she had big muscular thighs. But she had a really petite upper body. And it kind of that body type worked for sport, but excuse me, but it wasn't a body type she wanted for the rest of her life. So we actually used resistance training with activities that caused a lot of muscular damage. So which would be like high reps, heavy weights, a combination of a little bit of everything. But we would go about and do our training as if we were creating muscular damage, as if you'd want to build muscle. But we restricted her eating for the 8 to 12 hours after the workout. So she would work out in the evening and then not eat the rest of the night. And what we were able to do over time was we actually took muscle off of her thighs. So she had built up the musculature of her thighs so much larger and in comparison to her upper body that we afforded, like that's what she wanted, so there was so much muscle there that we could afford to let some of it go. So we actually resistance trained and then restricted her diet and actually took muscle off of her thighs and reshaped her body to the way she wanted. So I forget exactly how long it took. I'd say like 6 to 9 months. But that was something we've done. So we've done spot reduction in terms of losing the muscle in a certain area to better balance the overall aesthetics of the body. That's really odd, and it's not something I've done on a regular basis, but I've done it, I don't know, several dozens of times. So I actually worked with a plus-size model once, and that was super fun. She was taller than me. I think she was like 6'2", pretty thick girl, and she wanted to kind of change her frame. So she knew she liked being heavy, but she wanted to have a little bit of a different shape. So we actually used the muscle manipulation of resistance training to change her shape, but we didn't change too much about her fat levels, so that way she could still have the curves that she liked and kind of be her natural self. So she didn't want to get skinny mini, but she did want to change her shape a bit. So that's what we did. So you can change shape of an area, but you can't lose body fat in only one area. Okay? So your best ways of going about this, how do we sum all this up, is nutritionally, you do want to diet in a caloric deficit, so do what would be considered an appropriate style of dieting for fat loss. That will help you lose the fat over your entire body, and that'll include your problem area. So if you have an area that you really don't like, belly fat or thighs, do a normal diet, so that way you do lose body fat. But then also use resistance training to help shape that area, so that way you can get a visual effect on that area and get it faster than just waiting for fat loss alone. And also recognize that this is the process, that you can't actually spot reduce no matter what bullshit somebody else ever told you. So you can't spot reduce. So by understanding the truth of this, it's going to give you more realistic expectations, and you won't feel frustrated, you won't feel like a failure, you won't have like negativity and doubts and kind of disappointment throughout the process, because you won't be expecting something that is never going to happen. So recognize that spot reduction doesn't happen. It's not possible. You have to lose fat evenly over the whole body through a normal healthy diet and normal exercise. Then use the exercise in resistance training to help you lose that fat, but then also help you change the shape of that area. So you can change the muscle of an area, and that'll change the shape, but you can't change just the fat of an area. Cool. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it gave us some good insights into why spot reduction isn't possible, but how you can still go about changing a spot if that's a problem area for you. Cool. Now, if you like this information but you're not sure how to put it all together for yourself, of course we'll help you with that, like for any kind of programming services you might like. But hopefully this was enough to kind of get you good expectations and not beat your head against the wall if you're dieting and wondering why it's not losing in just that one spot. Just got to be more patient and then add resistance training for that spot, and that'll maybe help you change the shape. Cool. So if you have any trouble, reach out to us. I'm not going to charge you like $1 million to answer an email. So just reach out to us. Send us an email. We get emails all the time, which is super freaking awesome. I love hearing from you guys. And it gives me ideas for all these podcasts. But shoot us an email. Tell us what your worries and concerns are. And maybe we'll help give you a little bit of a direction. And then if you wanted like a more in-depth personal program and stuff like that, yeah, we can do that for sure. So that's how we pay the bills for this place. But we're not going to charge you just to help you out. So if you're really frustrated and you're depressed and disappointed, and you want just a little more clarity, shoot us an email with what you're doing and we'll help you out, okay? We'll give you some guidelines and some pointers that maybe send you in a better direction. Cool. So, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like this information, you can sign up to become a patron of the podcast, and that would be by donating $10 a month to the podcast. So it helps keep the podcast going, and for your donation, we're going to send you monthly training programming. So you can get programs for any topic you want, whether it's fat loss, strength, aesthetics, training at home with no equipment, anything. So we have a variety of the programs. They all update every single month. And we have video support for the exercises, so that way you can actually go to YouTube and see us performing the exercise and giving you guys healthy tips on how to stay safe and make it effective. So if you'd like that kind of stuff, sign up to become a patron and just donate $10 a month and we'll send you that kind of information. So you can sign up to become a patron directly on the Podbean app, or send us an email, or Google search for Become a Patron Brutal Iron Gym Podcast. And if you like these kind of podcasts, make sure you share them with your family and friends. So the more people we help, the happier the world's going to be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Like I said, this podcast is for you. So we want to know what you want to learn about. And you can reach us at our email at brutaliron@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening.